Yo soy boricua, pa que tú lo sepas. This is a common saying in Puerto Rican culture that means I am Puerto Rican, just so you know. It is used amongst Puerto Ricans to show pride in who they are and in their culture, consisting of an amalgamation of African, Taino, and Spanish roots. This melting pot creates the Puerto Rican culture expressed through music, food, language, traditions, and family. Although Puerto Rican culture is held close to the heart for people from the island, it is far from ideal when it comes to gender roles and expectations. Good afternoon, my name is Riles Correa, and I am a Puerto Rican woman. The principle of machismo, where men as defined by the Journal of the American Academy of Psychoanalysis, are characteristically willful, dominant over wife, family, authoritarian, not visibly affected by tender emotions, nor given to contribute to tasks traditionally assumed by females, such as household chores or child rearing. Although a representation of American culture, this image, the holdout, provided by the AP College Board stimulus packet, can also be related to Puerto Rican machismo. It demonstrates how men in this time period had superiority over women and believed that gender oppression was acceptable. The woman represents how Americans had begun to change their approach to women. But Puerto Rican women continue to combat the belief that women are inferior to men. As a result of this, complications arise within the Puerto Rican women. The limiting and ultimately harmful gender roles forming a part of the Puerto Rican culture have led to the question, to what extent did Puerto Rican gender roles from the late 20th to early 21st century impact the mental stability and well-being of Puerto Rican women? Thorough research has revealed that the Puerto Rican gender roles between the 20th and early 21st century have negatively impacted the mental well-being of Puerto Rican women. The main factors relating to Puerto Rican gender roles that contribute to mental instability in Puerto Rican women are household expectations, sexual expectations from the spouse, and migration to new host societies. To commence, now, it is crucial to analyze the gender roles within the culture An article from the Arizona State University describes some of the mental disorders resulting from gender roles in Puerto Rican culture. These include depression, psychosexual dysfunction, dysphoria, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and alcohol abuse. Now, it is crucial to analyze the gender roles within the culture that catalyze mental illness. To commence, subsistence work within the individual household is the place where gender oppression is perpetrated, where women are controlled, confined, and restrained. In an article from the University of Nebraska, women are considered to be de la casa, or of the home. These culturally imposed responsibilities include cleaning, cooking, caring for children, and caring for the ill. In the journal article by Marisa Licea from DePaul University, first-hand accounts of Puerto Rican woman she was examining are shown. One of the participants, Raquel, said, "I went to the barn in the back of the house and I cried. Well, just to let you know, there was a rope hanging down from the ceiling of the barn, and I would look at that rope and think to myself, should I choke myself?" Yeah. Another woman, Elizabeth, said that, "I would have wanted to continue studying and I couldn't. I was only able to get to 3rd grade because I had to get out of school and stay at home to help the younger ones and help my mother." These first-hand accounts indicate that the expectations of women within the home are so intense that they drive women to question their self-worth. In Raquel's case, it even led to thoughts of self-harm. Having to juggle these extensive tasks within the home is burdensome and requires an excessive amount of self-sacrifice, causing the women to set aside their own mental and physical needs for the well-being of the family, like Elizabeth did with her own education. Furthermore, Puerto Rican culture also possesses rather questionable beliefs based upon sexual expectations. This infographic provided by the CDC shows that 1 in 5 women suffer from sexual abuse from an intimate partner. Norma Cofresi's journal article referenced earlier also highlights machismo is associated with sexual prowess and sexual power over women. Men are encouraged to be sexually aggressive. The woman is expected to be submissive and self-sacrificing in order to meet all her husband's needs, including the sexual ones. Engaging in sexual behavior that is undesired can contribute to female sexual victimization, as well as encourage females to internalize the effects of unwanted sexual assault by blaming themselves. Sexual socialization only furthers the inhibition of assertiveness, in turn leading to psychological problems such as depression and psychosomatic symptoms. Other factors such as financial dependency on the male or the children she has with him will force her to make sure he is satisfied in all aspects. The final contributing factor is migration. Migration does not simply dispose of your background or culture. This is something that Puerto Rican women face when migrating. The article named The Chamber Nautilus explains that migration obscures the reality that immigrant women, while gaining some freedoms because of their paid work, still have the primary responsibility of the subsistence work in the home. Evidently, women are still tied to their harmful gender roles. Puerto Rican culture norms and ethical standards often come in conflict with those of North America that translate into psychological or intrafamiliar conflict. This is because the workplace in host societies exposes women to different and additional forms of oppression. For example, employers prefer to hire immigrant women over men because of the racist assumption that women can afford to work for less and are suited for physiologically routine work. And men who feel that their status and identity as primary wage earners and providers are threatened because of their wives' paid work and will at times be abusive towards their spouse. So migration only reinforces the gender roles Puerto Rican women are exposed to and results in mental instability. There are solutions to this given problem. The mental instability results from gender roles can be limited or avoided through under certain conditions. 1. Therapy. Lillian Comas Diaz, a therapist from the Transcultural Mental Health Institute, using feminist therapy with Puerto Rican women results in a greater awareness and understanding of the oppressive effects of traditional sex roles. This goes along with forming social groups for women, creating good communication, and setting rules and boundaries. But of course, there's limitations. Although these conditions would be preferable, no one can force these solutions upon the woman or the family. The limitations revolve around the idea of willingness. The Puerto Rican mindset is a sturdy one, and many people belonging to this culture refuse to admit that they need help, thus rejecting much-needed therapy. Therapy that could help reduce the negative effects that Puerto Rican gender roles have on the Puerto Rican woman. Thank you. I'm so excited.
All right, I have 2 questions for you. First one, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use? And then why didn't you use it?
So I gathered evidence on different types of family structures, so single parent homes, divorced parents, that type of thing. And I decided not to use it because it didn't really focus in on the negative effects that the gender roles were having on the woman. It was more specifically on the family as a whole.
Okay, and if you had more time, what additional research would you have conducted on this issue?
I probably would have conducted research on how effective therapy was for the women and their families. This would show that the solutions are reasonable and effective.